Have you ever wondered why some people seem to achieve success with impressive ease, while others struggle for years without getting anywhere? On a cold January night in 1929, Napoleon Hill discovered the answer to this question, a pattern so powerful that it forever changed the destiny of millions of people in the following 100 years. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal to you the three-day method that Napoleon Hill discovered after interviewing more than 500 millionaires over 25 years. The same method that transformed a man with 147,000 reais in debt into a successful entrepreneur in just 7 weeks, and that you can start applying today without needing special resources or extraordinary skills. When Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, after decades of studying America's most powerful men like Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, and Henry Ford, he identified a surprising pattern. 98% of people give up exactly when they are just 3% away from achieving their greatest goals. And the scariest part? They don't even realize how close they are. You'll discover the 21-minute ritual that reprograms your brain to identify when you're just 3 centimeters from success. The 3-step formula that transforms obstacles into fuel for your growth. The method that activates what neuroscientists at Stanford University call extinction resistance, a condition where your brain literally becomes incapable of giving up. And at the end, I'll share the 5-minute exercise that transformed Marcos from Curitiba's life in just 72 hours. It all started in 1908, when a young reporter named Napoleon Hill was assigned to interview Andrew Carnegie, then the richest man in the world. What should have been a 3-hour interview turned into a 3-day conversation that would forever change the course of personal development history. Carnegie looked Hill in the eyes and made an extraordinary proposal. I am willing to open doors for you to meet America's most successful men and discover the exact formula that all of us use to build fortunes. But with one condition: you will have to dedicate 20 years of your life to this project without compensation. Most people would have immediately refused, but Hill accepted the challenge. Why? Because Carnegie had identified in him a rare quality, what he called definite major purpose, the first principle that separates the 2% who conquer everything from the 98% who give up before the finish line. Recent studies from the University of Pennsylvania, led by Dr. Angela Duckworth, confirm exactly what Hill discovered almost a century ago. They call it grit, the combination of passion and perseverance for long-term goals, and found that this trait is the greatest predictor of success, surpassing talent, intelligence, or initial conditions. The most fascinating part? Modern neuroscience shows that we aren't born with this quality. It's developed through a specific process that Hill codified and that anyone can apply. Let's meet Marcos, an entrepreneur from Curitiba. At 38, he had invested 3.5 years in building his technology company. He worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. He sold his car, took loans from family, slept in the office. After 42 months of insane work, the company still hadn't taken off. The debt had reached 147,000 reais, and his wife was threatening divorce. "I can't take it anymore," Marcos told me, on the verge of collapse. "I've worked harder than anyone I know, and it seems like I'm getting nowhere." What Marcos didn't know was that he was applying only 60% of the hard work formula that Hill had discovered. When I taught him the other 40%, what Hill called the science of relentless persistence, his company exploded in growth in just 7 weeks. In 4 months, he sold the startup for 2.3 million reais. "It was like discovering that I had been digging in the right direction all along," Marcos told me, "but I wasn't digging the right way." But before revealing what transformed Marcos's life, I need to go back to Hill's story for you to understand the complete context of this discovery. After accepting Carnegie's proposal, Hill spent the next 25 years interviewing more than 500 of America's most successful men. He wanted to identify the exact pattern that separated the extremely successful from the mediocre and the failures. But the path wasn't easy. At 40, after decades of research, Hill was completely broke. On a freezing January night in 1929, he sat alone in his office, surrounded by 3,000 pages of rejected interviews, 47 rejection letters from publishers, and a stack of overdue bills that reached the ceiling. It was at this moment of total exhaustion, when any sensible person would have given up, that Hill made the discovery that would change everything. He realized that he was exactly at the point where 98% of people stop, just 3 centimeters from gold. This brings me to the second principle that Hill discovered: resistance transformation into fuel. Hill noticed a fascinating pattern among the men he studied. They didn't win despite resistance. They won because of it. Consider Henry Ford. In 1893, Ford was building his first automobile in a garage in Detroit. He worked from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. in his workshop, then went to his real job at the Edison Illuminating Company from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. He slept only 1 hour a night. This lasted for 4 consecutive years. His family said he was crazy. Neighbors complained about the noise. His wife Clara threatened to leave him. Colleagues made jokes about the car nut. Investors called him a clueless dreamer. But Ford had developed what Hill identified as the ability to transform each criticism, each obstacle, each no into additional energy to work with more intensity. The more pressure, the more productive he became. In 1896, Ford completed his first automobile, the quadricycle. In 1903, he founded the Ford Motor Company. In 1913, he revolutionized industrial production with the assembly line. In 1914, he became one of the richest people in the world. "Resistance didn't stop me," Ford said years later. "It made me work smarter and with more intensity." Modern neuroscience confirms this phenomenon. When we face resistance, our brain has 2 options: activate the fight or flight system, which leads us to give up, or activate what neuroscientists call growth response, where our neurons form new connections that make us more resilient. Carolina, a lawyer from Brasilia, applied this principle extraordinarily. For 7 consecutive years, she tried to pass the exam to become a federal judge. She studied 14 hours a day, including weekends and holidays. She took the exam 6 times and always ranked among the top 20, but never got final approval. On the 7th attempt, she had a crying crisis during the oral exam. 7 years of my life thrown away, she thought. Maybe I really don't have what it takes. That's when she applied Hill's resistance transformation method. Instead of seeing the 6 failures as evidence of incapacity, she reinterpreted them as optimization data. Each previous test had shown where she needed to improve. Resistance wasn't her enemy. It was her feedback system. On the 8th attempt, Carolina was approved in first place. "I didn't win despite 7 years of attempts," she told me. "I won because of them. Each failure made me more prepared." But the third principle that Hill discovered is perhaps the most revolutionary of all: legacy perspective. Hill observed that extremely successful people operate on a different temporal frequency. While most think in days and weeks, they think in decades. While most want results in months, they are willing to work for years. In 1975, Bill Gates was 20 years old when he dropped out of Harvard to found Microsoft. Everyone said he was throwing away one of the best educations in the world to pursue a technological fantasy. For 10 years, Gates worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, often sleeping in the office. During the first 8 years, Microsoft almost went bankrupt 4 times. Gates had to borrow money from his father, sell personal assets, cut staff salaries. Investors gave up. Employees resigned. The press predicted the end of the company, but Gates had legacy perspective. He wasn't working for the next month or year. He was building for the coming decades. While others gave up because they didn't see immediate results, Gates continued because he could visualize where technology would be in 20 years. In 1995, Microsoft launched Windows 95 and became the world's most valuable software company. Gates became the richest man on the planet. But he had worked 20 years with this vision when 99% of people would have given up at the first serious difficulty. This principle connects directly with what neuroscientists call delayed gratification, the ability to forgo immediate rewards in favor of greater gains in the future. MRI studies show that people with high capacity to delay gratification have stronger neural connections between the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, and the limbic system, the brain's reward center. Roberto, a writer from Salvador, applied this principle perfectly. For 15 years, he wrote every day from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. before work, and from 10 p.m. to midnight after his family went to sleep. He sent 847 manuscripts to publishers. He received 847 rejections. Friends said, "Roberto, you've tried long enough. Maybe writing isn't for you." His wife suggested, "Why don't you accept that this is just a hobby?" Even he himself began to question whether he was wasting 4 hours daily for 15 years. But Roberto had applied the legacy perspective. He wasn't writing to be published the next month. He was preparing to be a world-class writer in 20 years. Each rejection was a lesson on how to improve. Each criticism was data for optimization. On manuscript 848, Roberto was accepted by a publisher. His first book sold 200,000 copies. The second became a bestseller. Today, 8 years later, he is one of Brazil's most respected authors. 15 years seemed like a long time for those watching, Roberto told me. But for someone who was building a legacy, it was just the warm-up. Now imagine combining these three principles: definite major purpose, resistance transformation into fuel, and legacy perspective. The result is what Hill called the law of 3 centimeters, the discovery that 98% of people give up when they are just 3% away from total victory. During the gold rush in Colorado in 1890, 2 miners, R.U. Darby and his uncle, discovered gold veins and began to dig. After weeks of hard work, they found shiny metal. Excited, they went home, raised money, bought equipment, and returned to extract the gold. Initially, extraction was successful, but suddenly the gold vein disappeared. They dug desperately to the right, left, down. Nothing. After weeks of fruitless work, they decided to give up and sold the equipment to a junk dealer for a few $100s. The junk dealer consulted a mining expert who examined the mine and said that the previous owners had stopped digging exactly 3 centimeters before reaching the largest gold deposit in the region. The junk dealer dug 3 more centimeters and found millions of dollars in gold. Hill used this story to illustrate his law of 3 centimeters. The vast majority of people give up when they are a few steps away from victory simply because they cannot see how close they are to success. Paula, a nutritionist from Goiânia, lived this experience. She opened her clinic in 2019 and worked tirelessly for 2.5 years, attending from Monday to Saturday, studying at night, doing digital marketing, building a reputation. But by mid-2022, the clinic still had few clients, and she had been in the red for 6 months. Psychologically exhausted, Paula decided to close the clinic and go back to working as an employee. 3 years were enough, she thought. Clearly, I don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. But a week before officially closing, Paula applied the 3 centimeters detection protocol that Hill had developed. She scientifically analyzed her data. Client retention was at 89%, satisfaction at 97%, recommendations increasing 15% per month. All indicators pointed out that she was building something solid. Paula decided to give it 90 more days. In week 6 of those extra 90 days, a client referred her to a company. In week 8, she secured a corporate contract. In week 12, she had a 2-month waiting list. Today, 18 months later, Paula has 3 clinics and one of the most solid reputations in the city. I was less than 2 months away from explosion, Paula told me, but I was going to give up because I couldn't see how close I was. Now you're wondering, how can I apply these principles in my life? How can I know when I'm just 3 centimeters from success? How can I develop the relentless persistence that Hill discovered? The answer lies in the 3-day protocol that I'll share now. This is the same protocol that transformed the lives of Marcos, Carolina, Roberto, and Paula, and it can transform yours too. Hill's complete protocol for developing scientific extreme persistence is based on 5 daily exercises that reprogram your brain to work unstoppably. Exercise 1. Daily proximity analysis. Every night you analyze 3 indicators showing that you're approaching the goal, even if the final results aren't yet visible. Hill discovered that persistent people can see progress where others only see stagnation. Exercise 2. Resistance transformation. Every time you encounter an obstacle, you ask yourself, how can I use this to work smarter? Instead of resistance draining your energy, it becomes additional fuel. Exercise 3. Legacy perspective. Once a week, you visualize where you'll be in 10 years if you continue working at the current level. This maintains your motivation when immediate results don't appear. Exercise 4. Productive obsession ritual. Every day, you dedicate at least 3 hours to the most important work without interruptions, even if you don't feel like it. Hill discovered that persistence doesn't depend on mood, but on system. Exercise 5. Failure reinterpretation. Whenever something doesn't work, you ask, what data did this experience give me to optimize my approach? Failures become information, not discouragement. Miguel, an entrepreneur from Recife, applied these 5 exercises while building his digital marketing company. For 18 months, he worked from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, including weekends. The company grew slowly, but Miguel could see the proximity indicators that others didn't see: improving work quality, clients staying longer, recommendations increasing. In the 19th month, a client brought a project worth $200,000. In the 21st month, Miguel had 8 employees and was one of the most sought-after agencies in the region. The 18 months were my investment. Miguel told me the result came as a natural consequence of all that systematic work. The most powerful exercise that Hill created, and that I want you to apply in the next 3 days, is the 1,000 days ritual. This is the exercise that transformed Marcos's life in just 72 hours. The concept is simple but revolutionary. You choose a goal that will take between 2 to 3 years to achieve and commit to working on it every day for 1,000 consecutive days, no matter what happens. No exceptions, no excuses, no days off. Fernanda, a designer from Fortaleza, applied the 1,000 days ritual. She would study design for 4 hours daily for 1,000 consecutive days. Rain, sunshine, illness, parties, personal problems. Nothing would interrupt the daily 4 hours. In the first 200 days, Fernanda didn't see much progress. In the first 400 days, she was improving, but still far from the level she wanted. On day 600, she started receiving the first compliments from respected professionals. On day 800, she got her first well-paid freelance project. On day 1000, Fernanda was one of the most respected designers in the Northeast, with clients competing for her services and job offers from international companies. The ritual transformed me into a completely different person, Fernanda told me. It wasn't just that I learned design, I learned to work unstoppably. That changed my whole life. Hill discovered that the 1,000 days ritual not only develops specific skill, but fundamentally rebuilds how your brain processes difficulty, fatigue, and discouragement. You become physically incapable of giving up. Sounds intense? That's because it is. But you don't need to commit to 1,000 days now. Start with just 3 days. That's all I ask. 3 days for you to experience the power of this method. Here's the exercise I want you to do right now, while you're still watching. Step 1. Identify an important goal you want to achieve in the next 2 or 3 years. Be specific. Step 2. Determine a daily action you can perform for at least 30 minutes to move toward that goal. Step 3. Commit to performing this action every day for the next 3 days, no exceptions. Step 4. Each night, note 3 indicators of progress, even if they seem small. Step 5. After 3 days, evaluate how you feel and decide if you want to continue for 7 more days. That's it. Simple, isn't it? But the impact can be profound. Carlos, a financial consultant from Porto Alegre, had been a bank manager for 12 years, earned well, had stability, but felt completely empty. "I did everything automatically," he told me. "There was no challenge, growth, or meaning." Carlos decided to apply Hill's protocol to become an independent consultant. For 2 years, he worked 8 hours at the bank during the day and 6 hours studying and building his consultancy at night. Entire weekends studying the financial market, taking courses, building a reputation. "It was the most intense period of my life," Carlos told me, "but also the most rewarding. For the first time I was working for something that really mattered." After 24 months of extreme work, Carlos left the bank and opened his consultancy. Today, 3 years later, he earns 400% more than he earned as a manager and says he has found his true calling. "Hard work wasn't a sacrifice," Carlos reflected. "It was the bridge between who I was and who I was meant to be." Hill's most profound discovery was that extreme hard work is not sacrifice. It is the only way to experience true fulfillment. People who work with method and purpose report levels of satisfaction and meaning impossible to achieve through shortcuts or easy life. Thomas Edison worked 18 hours a day but said, "I never worked a day in my life. It was all fun." Henry Ford worked 20 hours a day building cars but said, "If you do what you love, you've never worked." Napoleon Hill worked 25 years collecting data to write Think and Grow Rich, but considered them the most rewarding years of my life. Hill discovered that intense work, when applied scientifically, generates a psychological state that he called permanent productive flow, a condition where intense effort becomes pure pleasure and deep fulfillment. Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi from the University of Chicago confirmed Hill's discovery by studying what he called flow state, moments of intense concentration where the person loses track of time and experiences extreme satisfaction. Csikszentmihalyi discovered that flow happens when there is a perfect balance between high challenge and high skill, exactly the condition that scientific hard work creates. Hill discovered that the true tragedy is not working hard and failing. It is never working hard enough to discover what you are truly capable of. Most people live an entire lifetime without ever experiencing their real potential because they never agreed to work at the level of intensity necessary to awaken their greatness. Hill's complete protocol for developing unstoppable work. Capacity can be applied by anyone, in any area, at any time. It doesn't depend on natural talent, initial conditions, or luck. It depends only on the decision to work scientifically and persist where 98% of people give up. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes that you have much greater potential than you're currently expressing. You know you're capable of much more, but perhaps you don't know how to access that capacity through systematic work. The choice is yours. Continue working at the median level where most operate, or discover what happens when you apply extreme scientific work long enough to achieve extraordinary results. Hill spent 25 years working to discover the secrets of America's most successful men. These men didn't have superpowers. They had superior systems for working unstoppably. Napoleon Hill proved that anyone can develop extreme persistence by following specific scientific principles. The question is not whether you have the capacity. The question is whether you are willing to work hard enough, for long enough, systematically enough, to transform that capacity into reality. Your moment of truth has arrived. You can continue being one more person who works quite a lot and achieves mediocre results, or you can join the 2% who work scientifically and achieve extraordinary results exactly where everyone else gives up. If this content has awakened the part of you that is ready to truly work hard, if you are willing to persist where 98% stop, demonstrate it now, start the 3-day protocol today, and comment "I work hard" to energetically activate this decision, and share with people who are also ready to discover what they are truly capable of when they apply unstoppable scientific work. Because when you truly work hard, you not only transform your own life, you become a living example that it is possible to win where everyone gives up. Remember Hill's words, "Persistence is to man's character what carbon is to steel." When you work scientifically and persistently, you not only achieve your goals, you forge yourself into an indestructible version of yourself. Your extraordinary journey begins the moment you decide to work where everyone gives up. The world is waiting to see what you are truly capable of.